And a look at how pilots are affected by smoke from those oil fires burning in Kuwait.
U.S. Marine Harrier jets back from another bombing raid on Iraqi military positions. Allied pilots say they're facing a new threat over Kuwait.
A lot of fires on the ground, a lot of smoke. Maybe some confusion as to what's actually burning and what was lit.
The Allies now say there's no confusion about what's burning. The U.S. says it has proof Iraq is intentionally destroying Kuwaiti oil facilities. These bombs could add to the fire and smoke on the ground. They're U.S. napalm bombs, fiery explosives, used extensively and not without controversy during the Vietnam War. CNN has confirmed that U.S. Marine pilots are dropping napalm on Iraqi fortifications, preparing for a possible ground war. A Pentagon official says the Marines are using the napalm to ignite oil-filled Iraqi defensive trenches in Kuwait, hopefully making them easier to cross. Napalm was developed during World War II, used in both bombs and flamethrowers. Gasoline or something similar is mixed into a jelly-like mixture. The Pentagon says only the Marines have been authorized to use napalm in the Gulf War and not against Iraqi troop positions.
What we're doing is helping us, so it's no problem.
Pilots at this air base in eastern Saudi Arabia say they're ready. Their Harrier jump jets can take off and hover almost like a helicopter. They don't need runways, and they're designed for close-in ground support. That's when these pilots say their jobs get really tough.
Obviously, once you start dropping near troops, then you have to make sure you're dropping on the right people.
But like many in the Allied forces, there's a growing feeling the current deadline will turn into a countdown to ground war.
I think it takes a grunt to kick a grunt out of a hole.
The sooner they start kicking, say some of these Marines, the sooner they can get home. Al Hinman, CNN, reporting.
Congressman Larry Smith is joining us again. Congressman, at this point, maybe we should clear something up. It's our understanding that the UN Security Council is meeting to discuss Iraqi's response to the Soviet second proposal, not the Iraqi second response to the George Bush proposal made yesterday. Is that the way you understand it?
As far as I know, that's the thing that was the original cause for the Security Council to meet.
If that's the case, then is there anything left for the Iraqis to do at this point? They've obviously gone beyond the 12 deadline. George Bush is not going to accept a response to the Soviet proposal because he's only going to respond to his own proposal, obviously. So where can we go from here in any other direction other than some form of ground assault or escalation of the war?
Well, you have to be able to distinguish between the military option that we continue to have, and a very, very big, valid military option, and the diplomatic options which we're pursuing. If the Iraqis have truly, in fact, moved and agreed to the second Russian position, we have rejected that on the basis that it didn't meet a number of tests, the immediacy of withdrawal, and certain other things.
It is now 7:30 in the morning in Kuwait. We will take a break. Our coverage of the war in the Gulf in this new phase continues right after this.
Welcome back to Channel 7. We were hoping that Dan Blackburn's conversation with the folks out in California would last a little longer. That's live TV. We got in on the tail end of it. Hopefully we can get some of that later on. When this ground war started, I think we all knew, or we all speculated anyway, that it would probably start at night, because we have heard so much about what's happening over there in the desert, the fact that when the moon goes down and the darkness sets in there, it is pitch black out there on the desert. And we've talked so much about the Allied troops' ability to see at night with their light fighting capabilities. CNN's Mike Shinoy takes a closer look at exactly what that means to the Allied forces.
It is the most sophisticated night fighting force in the world, equipped with state-of-the-art technology to turn the blackness of the desert into an eerie but clearly visible field of battle.
The way we do that is using very sophisticated night imaging equipment, everything from seekers on some of our warheads and our missiles, as well as our individual soldiers, even all the way down to the guy who drives the truck, who's in the supply train, has a night vision goggle system with him that enables him to be able to operate when the sun goes down.
Have a live report on the Gulf War at 10 o'clock, and we will have a live edition of This Week in South Florida with Dwight Lauderdale at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Also on This Week with David Brinkley at 11:30, Secretary of State James Baker will be the special guest. For Elliot, John, Walter, and the rest of us, thanks for joining us. We now rejoin ABC's war coverage.
I've been working for Calumet Farm, soon to be 49 years. I've worked for some famous horses.
What gives a certain group of people the ability to consistently do the impossible? Take Calumet Farm. No other farm has ever dominated horse racing like Calumet. Whirlaway, Citation, Aladar. It would take a winner's circle as big as Kentucky to do justice to this amazing stable. When excellence becomes a tradition, there's no end to the greatness. And it doesn't happen only in horse racing. In the auto industry, Ford Motor Company has continually been a leader in innovation, and there's much more to come. Our new modular V8 represents a dramatic improvement in both efficiency and performance. And our new Crown Victoria and Grand Marquis are redefining the concept of luxury ride and handling. America fell in love with Ford in the 80s. And smart money will tell you, we're going to be even tougher to beat in the 90s. Ford Motor Company.
Conceivably have cost even more casualties. It's also true that that proposition embodied within it the repeal of all the other UN sanctions and resolutions that have been voted by the Security Council. We felt that was totally unacceptable. We've seen just in the last 72 hours what would appear to be a deliberate effort on the part of the Iraqis to further destroy what's left of Kuwait, to put the torch to the oil fields, reports of executions of Kuwaiti citizens inside Kuwait City. And under the circumstances, the notion that Saddam Hussein should be permitted to get away scot-free without being held accountable for his actions or without having to pay reparations, for example, was unacceptable from the standpoint of the coalition. The president's statement yesterday.
That, of course, was... You have been listening to Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. He addressed the nation about 10:20 this evening from the Pentagon, telling us how the Pentagon will proceed from here on out the next 24 to 48 hours. He said those military briefings we've been hearing every day are going to be stopped in order to protect our troops in the Middle East in this, the new and final phase of the war, the ground offensive.
Let's start wrapping things up a little bit here tonight. We want to cover a number of different points. First of all, the ground war, of course, began. It began just a little before 8 o'clock this evening. We're told it's a massive assault, not only on the ground, but in the air and at sea. The pictures you're looking at right now come from Baghdad. The bombing has not stopped, of course. These are pictures of what is being called the heaviest bombing of that capital city since the war began. The tracer bullets going up. We understand those after explosions that you're seeing are Allied bombs finding their targets in the city of Baghdad.
President Bush calls this the final phase of the Gulf War, the ground assault, this being G-Day, the one we were promised would come sometime. The word came down sometime after the deadline passed this afternoon that the ground assault would begin, the word coming from President Bush to General Norman Schwarzkopf.
And the final point that we're going to cover tonight, Defense Secretary Cheney coming on about 10:30 this evening, talking about the fact that the briefings, both at the Pentagon and in Riyadh, would be ceasing, that he was going to be putting a lid on all military information coming out because, as he put it, we don't want the Iraqis to know where the troops are or what they're doing, and hopefully we can save some U.S. lives.
We want to add tonight that Operation Homefront has told us they are going to stay open for 24 hours. Anyone with families in the Middle East, anyone who needs someone to talk to, they are the ones to go to.
And keep in mind that we will have a special report here on Channel 7 beginning tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. Mark Ludner and Tom Cole will be joining us from Washington.
All right, we hope to see you at 5, 6, and 10 tomorrow. Thank you for being with us.
Have a great night.